Like Elvis on his throne, that's how his reign did end. He hoped for a reunion and broken fences mend. Family he'd forsaken, oh so long ago, longed to reconcile with him before death dealt its final blow. He traveled a long distance via car and rail and sea. He rehearsed his plea for forgiveness down on his ravaged knees. Didn't have the address of his children and estranged wife. He'd abandoned them completely, severed cord with coward's knife. Regretting wrong turn he had taken, hard mistake from long ago. Longed to hold his offspring one last time, remove noxious weeds that he had sown. Though he did not know her address, he had creeped her on Facebook. He knew not where she lived, but her job location he'd stalk just like a crook. She was a simple server, waitress hours of 7 till 3. She was there when her kids got home, and she'd made home heavenly. Elvis visited her diner at the busiest part of her day. Desired so just to see her, had nothing prepared to say. Disguised with age, baseball cap, and sunglasses, he sat in a corner booth. Saw sweats breathing up on her brow, and he felt the horrid truth. Marital problems had been god awful for both her and him, but she had been one to stick it out, take life out the chin. He slogged back to the hotel in his tiny lonely room, and fell ever deeper into a dark funk filled with deepest gloom. All those plans that he'd been making, dreams of dying as a dad, wondered where he'd find the courage to explain path he had trod. How to tell his daughter that life had just been too much, and so he'd slipped away one night and rushed far from their touch. And some that he'd abandoned, left to grow up on his own. Would he listen to a word he said, or greet him with righteous scorn? Elvis knew he was dying, was reason he journeyed home, but facing the people he'd betrayed terrified him to the bone. All night he tossed and turned, he got nary a wink of sleep. Next morning when he arose, rejected bleeding of inner sheep. He traveled back to the diner with plans to speak to his wife. Slipped into the men's room, planning to make himself look nice. Sweat was pouring off him when he slipped into a stall. It was on that throne of porcelain he achieved his deathly pall. Story didn't make the papers of man who had died ignobly, but when Priscilla saw his face, she knew she truly now was free. She finally had an answer to her years of prayer. She'd feared he'd come around someday and their existence tear. That second shoe finally dropped, now that he was dead. And that afternoon when she went home, not a word she said. The man who had abandoned caused her and hers such pain. He was gone completely, fate ended his sadistic reign. And so for her the sun shone brightly once again, and for her the sun was shining brightly once again.